I think I discovered God in a way that I had never known him before, in a way that I was not expecting. It was through watching television. And I was watching an episode of Law and Order, and I remember them portraying these children being sold out of the back of a van in New York City. So I do what you do when you don't know, and I went to Google, literally, and I punched in, what is human trafficking? I'd never heard of it before. That's where I found out for the first time that slavery still exists in the world and in this country, that there are more slaves today than at any other point in our history. And you start to read the statistics and the facts, and I mean, I was overwhelmed. I couldn't even begin to comprehend 27 million enslaved and the most innocent among us, children being ravaged and taken advantage of. Then I began to punch into Google, you know, what faith-based organizations are doing about this issue. And I began to see faces and names and read real stories. And I can't explain why in that moment, sitting in the comfort of my own home, watching my television, God began to change my life. 3 months later, my husband and I boarded a plane and we took a trip to India. That forever changed my life. And it began to give me an understanding of faith and of grace and what a relationship with God actually can do, that it's more than just words, but that it's real and active and living. And I'll never forget going into the red light district and seeing little children for sale on the street. I'll never forget being in the middle of a street and looking up in a second-story window and seeing a child in a cage. She could not have been more than 6 years of age. I wasn't even a parent at this point, and I felt such a rage and such a sadness and such shock, and I can't even put into words all of the emotions I felt. I just knew that my life would never be the same after that. I say that I was wrecked for life in that moment. And I remember seeing this. My husband and I toured a brothel. We saw children, innocent young lives being ravaged in ways that I just couldn't even put into words. But then we drove about 2 hours outside of the red light district and we went into a village where these girls had been rescued. I didn't speak their language and they didn't speak mine. But in a moment, I began to experience what it says in the Bible. In Isaiah 42, there's a scripture where it's saying that he will open the eyes of the blind, that he will set the prisoners free, that he will go into the dark dungeons and bring them freedom. And it's like I began to see the Bible coming to life in a way that I had never seen before. And I took the hands of a girl that was 19 years old, that had been sold into trafficking when she was 12, rescued when she was 18. So for 6 years of her life, she was ravaged every single day. But in that moment, she looked at me, she took my hands, and she just said, Jesus. And that's what she kept saying over and over again, Jesus, Jesus. And it took me back to that moment when I was 6 years old, kneeling at that powder blue clothes basket and believing with a faith like a child. And here was this 19-year-old young woman who believed the same, that the grace of God is real, that it comes into broken places and is like a glue and puts it back together and makes a work of art. And in that moment, I began to see that faith was more real than I had ever experienced before. Since then, I've come back and I've started an organization that fights human trafficking that I pray will bring freedom and will continue to open blind eyes and will continue to help bring people out of dark dungeons. But more than that, more than just the fight against that horrific reality, it's what it did in me. And it's that it made me realize that this life is about giving your life away for someone else. We all seek success and we seek things that make us feel alive. If you want to feel alive, give your life away. You will feel more alive than you ever have before.